we all know housing in DC, in the DC area, it is complicated. The rules of the game apparently completely changing now, though, because of different things going on. We have Jay Nix here, Compass Real Estate agent, who says before it was the sellers who got to call the shots. Not anymore. Those buyers picky. Let's bring Jay in. Jay, you got to tell us what is going on here. We know just recently, right, the rates just went up again.
Hey, Stephanie, good to see you. Yeah, the rates are up again. And, for a while we were saying 6 is the new 5 as buyers were adjusting to this higher rate. And they are in some cases. It's really an interesting market right now. It's not quite a seller's market. It's not quite a buyer's market anymore. But in some cases, it is a seller's market. In some cases, a buyer's market. Buyers are out there shopping, but they're pickier than ever before. And sellers have got to really up the game if they want to sell their properties. Otherwise, it's just going to be sitting there.
Now, Jay, you have educated me on how to purchase a home, because one thing you kept telling me about was turnkey, right? I didn't know what that meant in the beginning. Tell me what that means, and how has that played into what buyers are looking for now?
Well, because of the higher rates, buyers, it costs more to buy a home. So buyers are no longer looking for those fixer-uppers. There's a small percentage of people looking for the fixer-upper, but by and large, most buyers that I have dealt with or have come to my open houses say they want turnkey. They want the new kitchen. They want the new bathrooms. They want nice new flooring. They want the pristine front yard. The new HVAC system, new windows. They want everything ready to go so when they move in, it is turnkey and they don't have to do anything. And the reason why that is because the mortgage rates are so much higher with the 6.5 rate we're looking at right now. So they don't have the extra money or the energy required to renovate a home. So when they come to a house and they see a dated kitchen or dated bathroom, and keep in mind, we're not talking just about something 40 years old, even kitchens and bathrooms that are 25 years old are dated. So buyers come in like, oh, this is a nice house, like the neighborhood, whatever, but we don't redo everything. So, and it can be very simple to do these things, but the market's in two phases. Like if you have the home that checks a lot of boxes, that is turnkey and ready to go, those homes are selling fast and they're selling above list price. If it's a home that is dated, then it's sitting. In some cases, you see price breaks, price drops, or in some cases, if the seller's frustrated, they might just pull it from the market. As we've said in our meetings, you're either the belle of the ball or a wallflower, and you want to be the belle of the ball in this market.
Now, so Jay, what happens to those homes that aren't, updated the way buyers are looking for it? Are they just sitting there?
Yeah, they're just sitting there. Buyers will come in and they are scrutinizing everything from the hardwood floors to the kitchen. If that countertop is, an old style granite versus the new quartz, white quartz, people are like, they don't want to fool with it. The bathrooms are not turnkey and ready to go. They don't want to fool with it. They want something that has been updated and is fresh and modern and ready to go. And stylish, they want something that looks good and not just some cheap renovation. They really are scrutinizing these properties more closely. And again, the reason why that is because it costs more to buy the home. So if the rates were lower, they probably wouldn't be as picky. But what you're seeing is these homes that are not turnkey are sitting on the market, and either one, they're getting dramatic price drops, or they are just being pulled from the market. We saw a high number of listings pulled last fall. And of course, they relaunched in the spring, and the ones that didn't sell in the spring and the summer, they're going to be pulled and they'll try to relaunch in the fall, hoping to capture a different market. And rates may go down by then. And the key thing for people to remember is that if you wait, rates go down, then the homes that didn't sell in the spring or summer, they're going to sell quickly in the fall and sell above list price. So sometimes you shouldn't just be too picky, because now is a good time in some cases to get a bargain.
Very interesting. And we know also the cost of supplies, right, to actually buy materials to update are also kind of expensive right now as well. So you're saying then the frantic blind bidding era is over. What does that mean for the owners then? And then is there anyone just bypassing all this together?
Well, the bidding wars are over for the most part. And so what we're seeing is the buyers that are out there that are finding the homes they want. If if a particular home checks a lot of boxes for one buyer, it's checking a lot of boxes for several buyers. So you see a high concentration of homes, smaller number of homes rather, that are being overbid and driving the prices up while others are sitting. The market is just in flux right now as far as like whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. And the people who are doing best are the all cash buyers, because they can do anything they want to. And we're still seeing pre-inspections on homes that check a lot of boxes. But if the home is not turnkey and it's not selling, it's sitting. And the key thing to remember there is a home has about a 15-day window. If you don't have any offers in 7 to 15 days, then you're priced too high. And as a buyer, if you're thinking about it, somebody else is probably thinking about it as well. So you've got a home that's listed for let's say $1.1 million on the higher point, but 1.1, and it doesn't sell in 7 or 15 days, chances are there may be a price drop. And if you wait for the price drop, the other people who are watching the home too will wait for the price drop as well, will strike, and it might go back above list price. But if you go in and make an offer below list price, and here's the other trend we're seeing, a lot of buyers are just hesitant to make an offer below list price, and they're missing out on these homes. So you have to be strategic in when you purchase, because if you see something, you can't sleep on it. You can wait a few days, but if you like it, you might as well go ahead and pay, write an offer either at list price or below list price, because at some point somebody else is going to be eyeing it as well and think, hey, this is a good deal, we should jump on it.
I need to make friends with cash buyers because I don't know who these people are, Jay. When it comes to that option, though, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think they were like 25% of all sales last year in the DMV were all cash. And that's typically in neighborhoods like Georgetown and upper Northwest. But you do see it in some markets like DuPont, Logan, Shaw. It just depends on the buyer that's out there. But you can compete with an all cash offer if you have to get financing by doing several things. One is getting pre-approved for your loan in advance. So you go to your lender and say, hey, can you take us through underwriting in advance of making the offer? And so basically the lender takes all your information, processes you and says, here's a check, go find the home. It's not quite that simple, but it makes you as competitive as a cash offer, because the reason why a seller's or cash offer typically wins, not so much that they have cash, is that they can close quickly. So if you've got a lender who's already processed you and can close you in 10 or 15 days, you can be as good as cash and compete with those offers. Now, if your budget is limited and you can't go, $75,000, $150,000 over list price, then you're just kind of constrained by your budget. But if you want to compete, you work with the lender and get your go through underwriting in advance of finding the home, then you can be as good as cash and win those homes.
And I know in that process too, right? You can actually shop for lenders, but is there a window to do that? Do you not want to do that for too long?
Yeah, there's a 7-day window in the contract that you can shop your rate around. Now, if you are competing, you don't have that luxury. So if you've gone through underwriting with one lender, you have to go with that lender because they set these deadlines to make, and it's rare that you can find another lender that can meet the 2-week close or the 10-day close. Now, in a normal situation, that's the good thing about this market right now, is that if you're going after a home that has been sitting on the market and you don't have to compete, whether it's condo or a house, you can ask for closing cost help. You can ask for something in the home inspection. You do the home inspection, you find a couple of things to be fixed. You can ask for those things to be fixed that you normally couldn't do in a competitive situation. So we talk about shop the rate around. Yes, you call a couple of lenders, you have 7 days, but you really want to do it in 2-3 days and see who has the best deal. Typically, the first lender you've got your pre-approval letter, because you remember the process, Stephanie, you have to get a lender letter to at least make the first offer. Typically, that first lender you go back to, they're going to match whatever rates there are. It still is worth the exercise to make 1 or 2 quick phone calls. Now, you could spend, there's thousands of lenders, you could spend days trying to find the best one, but really, you don't have the luxury of time. You have 2-3 lenders you can give a quick call to and see what they're offering.
Jay, going back to the cash buyers, you had also noted that there's some federal rule changes there.
I'm sorry, repeat that. You cut out a little bit.
Going back to the cash buyers, you had also noted that there were some federal rule changes there. What's going on?
Yeah, there were some rule changes this year that, and they're not really going to benefit the non-cash buyers, but it's looking for money laundering and trying to make sure every cash deal is on the up and up. So it's just another layer of paperwork that the title company will have to do at settlement to make sure that your cash is coming from where your state is coming from. It's nothing untoward going on. So it's just protection for everybody involved and makes our market stronger. The real estate market stronger by not having these people who are money laundering. And there was a problem apparently, and that's why they changed some lending laws from that perspective to tighten up on all these all cash deals.
So what's the best way to navigate that then?
Well, it's really going to be between you and the title company. And if you're doing an all cash deal, you have to provide more paperwork on where your money's coming from. So already, if you are just using a loan and you have a large deposit or whatever, you have to let it sit in your bank account for a few days so they can, so it's seasoned, so to speak. So this will just be an added layer of paperwork for you with the title company, so you can prove that you're buying the home and there's nothing suspicious going on. You're not doing anything illegal. It just makes our system better to have these checks and balances.
All right, that's good stuff. So let's talk about the condo market, Jay. Where's the condo market, especially in DC right now?
It's really sad right now, to be totally honest. As I mentioned, though, but because some houses you're not competing on, the condo market really is where the bargains are to be had. With the high rates, it's actually cheaper in some cases to rent than to buy. And what I've seen, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been in DC since the 1990s, and it used to be when you bought a condo, you were moving up. So you had these old legacy buildings from the 50s and 60s and 70s that were just kind of dumpy. And then, or you were living in a row home with like 6 other people, and we call them flop houses. So if you were buying a condo, you were moving up. Well, in the past 10 years, we've seen this trend of these high-rise buildings all over the city that are resort style, living. You've got 24-hour concierge, you've got a pool, you've got a gym, you've got a dog washing station, you've got all these amenities that a lot of condo buildings can't compete with. So with the rates where they are now, you have these Gen Z people, whatever millennials, whatever you want to call them, that were typically your condo buyers, and they're living the life of luxury in these rentals. They're like, why do I want to leave this when it's cheaper to rent than to buy? So, but you still have the buyers out there that were raised differently and said, your parents browbeat into you don't want to pay somebody else's mortgage. So there are people out there taking advantage of these discounts in the condo market. And as long as the rates remain in the sixes, it's going to be tough for the condo market. But it is a good time to buy a condo because you can get your closing costs covered in most cases, and you can get those condos for less than what they were selling for 10 years ago. And it's important that, for a financial perspective, like you get the tax benefits and all these things that come along with home ownership. And if you keep that condo 5 to 7 years from this point moving forward, you should be okay. I think that the ones who bought during COVID, they're doing okay because they got the low interest rate. But it's the ones who bought in the last couple of years and trying to turn it around too quickly, they're not doing too well. But if you buy a condo now, keep it 5 to 7 years, maybe 8 years, you should be able to build up some equity, and hopefully the condo market will turn around. Some financial experts I've spoken with said, give it 3 or 5 years before those rates get down to a point where it makes more sense to buy the condos versus buying an apartment. And of course, if you were raised differently to, not want to rent and to buy, you need to get out there and take advantage of the deals, because there are some really good deals in the condo market.
Jay, I am a millennial, so watch your words there. No, I'm kidding. Want to ask you, when it comes to condos blacklisted, what does that mean? What happens there?
Well, Fannie and Freddie are changing lending laws. There's a new law that goes into effect August 3rd that wipes out the 50% investor cap. So it used to be that if you were in a building and you had more than 50% investors, like people who are renting out their units or just people who bought a unit to rent out as an investment, then Fannie and Freddie would look at that and say, that's a risky building. We're going to blacklist that building because there's just too many rentals. And the reason why they look at that as a risky investment for them is because absentee landlords just care about collecting that rent check. They're not invested in taking care of the building. So if the hallways need to be painting or new flooring or a new HVAC system for the building, the owners who don't live there are hesitant to throw money at that problem. So it makes it harder on the owners who live there, and therefore Fannie and Freddie, who are investing in the building. So, not only are you buying in the building, but Fannie and Freddie or the bank are investing in the building. So they've changed that to help ease those restrictions on these buildings to make them easier to sell. Now, the problem is they're changing the way buildings are reviewed. It used to be you'd get a cursory look at the finances or whatever, but because of Surfside, that tragedy in Florida, the lending laws are changing, and condos will have to put at least 15% of their budget into the reserves, and they'll also have to do reserve studies all the time, not all the time, but moving forward, to make sure the building is maintained. The reserve study is done by an association to see what work needs to be done, and they set aside money to say replace the roof, repoint the brick, replace windows, et cetera, in time. DC never required that. Virginia and Maryland did, but now DC condo associations are going to have to do reserve studies and have to set this money aside to maintain the buildings. And whereas it's now easier to sell a building because there's no investor cap, there's the scrutiny that takes effect in January of next year, where these associations will have to put 15% of their budget into the reserves. Now, I mentioned DC associations were not required to do reserve studies. What you might see, what might make it more challenging for the condos, is that if they don't have enough reserves, they're going to have to do special assessments to build up that reserves, and that could impact people selling and buying. So if you're buying a condo, the seller typically will have to pay off that reserve fund, whatever, before they can sell.
What about the condo
So that's going to
fee?
be a big change.
Could that impact the condo fee as well that you might have to pay?
Yeah, exactly. So you have your condo fee, and then because of the laws changing in January, because of Surfside, it's all about maintaining the building. And so if you have reserves and maintain the building, you're good to go. And that's another way you won't get blacklisted. But if you haven't done repairs, or you do the reserve study, that is, and you find that you need to do some work and you don't have the money for it, then Fannie and Freddie are going to say, hey, we're not going to do a loan in this building until you get your act together and get this work done. I've seen this happen in the past several years. Since Surfside, there was a complex down in Southwest where all the balconies need replacing. And so you couldn't get a loan in that complex because Fannie and Freddie said, hey, you got to fix all these problems because there are safety issues. And until you get that done, you can't get a loan. So that's another way a building was blacklisted.
What neighborhoods then in the DC area do you think that they're going to see the largest impact?
I don't think it's in one area. I mean, typically you would think of older buildings that are going to need the most work, and that in some cases that's true. So that complex in Southwest was built in the 60s, and all their balconies were having issues, so they need to redo those and make sure they're safe. But a couple of years ago, there was a building in Logan Circle, the U Street corridor, that all the windows needed replacing, and it was only 15 years old. And until they got the reserves up and replaced all the windows, and they had to do special assessments for all the units, which were really crippling to a lot of people's budgets. Some in the $15,000, $25,000, $35,000 range, depending on the size of your unit. Fannie and Freddie wouldn't do loans for that building, or were hesitant to do it, or you can maybe do a higher interest rate loan. But it was tough. But now they've gone through that, and so they're back in the mix, and units over there are selling better than they were during that time where they were kind of blacklisted.
Jay, just a few more questions for you. Given the housing and condo market where things are now, what are the hot spot neighborhoods in DC? Have they changed just a little bit?
Nothing's changed a little bit, but I would say with regards to the condo market, that anything west of 16th Street tends to sell better than anything east of 16th. And I can't really put my finger on it, what it is. I don't know if it's, but it's. We see things move more quickly west of 16th, west of Rock Creek Park, with housing as well. So upper Northwest, those houses do well. The condo market is surprisingly resilient in Clarendon, Boston, and those parts of Virginia. And homes in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and parts of Maryland are continuing to move quickly. But even Southern Maryland, I've been working with clients down in Charles County, Calvert County, just down that area, and things there are tending to move rather quickly. And again, at the end of the day, homes in DC, no matter where they're located, if they are turnkey, they're going to sell fast. If they check a lot of boxes for one buyer, chances are they work for another buyer, and they sell quickly. Like the building I'm in right now over in Shaw, U Street corridor, there was this unit is the Beauregard, and the units here tend to move fairly quickly. And a little insider, I think I can say this, but the Supreme Court justice that lives here, and so that might have something to do with it as well. But it is a very nice building.
Hey,
very lucky building. This unit that I'm in right now is a very nice unit. Hopefully it'll sell fast.
Breaking some news here on Fox 5. Thank you on the weekend stream.
Everybody, it's probably not. Everybody knows that. I'm not breaking the laws, I don't think.
One more question for you before
if I did, they'll be knocking on the door to arrest me soon.
That is true. Jay, just one more question for you here. Buying a house, buying a home was always the American dream, right? I'm just curious, are you seeing any changes in who's buying the home now? Are these younger couples, more older folks, single? What are you seeing out there?
Well, the median age of the first-time buyer has moved up. And so there's several reasons for that. One is just the cost of it. And I mentioned the condo market. It used to be first-time buyers, their 20s and 30s were made up the pool of people looking at condos, and those people have put those searches on hold. And all of this, again, has to do with COVID, and I'm sorry, it has to do with high interest rates, but also because of COVID. So what we saw during COVID was the work from home and the need for space. So a lot of buyers or people who are renting said, you know what, I'm just going to wait until I have enough money to buy a home, and I'm going to skip the condo market completely. So you see a lot of those people who used to be younger and making the condo purchase their first purchase are now waiting to the late 30s or 40s, early 40s, till they can afford a home, and then becoming a first-time buyer. So you're seeing the average age of the first-time buyer, at least in this market, skew older now, and older meaning like late 30s, early 40s, whereas in the past you had a lot of people in their 20s and 30s buying condos, and then they're just not out there buying condos anymore.
Jay Nix, real estate agent with Compass, we always appreciate you joining us here on Fox 5. Thank you so much for all of your time and your insights, especially on a Saturday, Jay.
Sure. Thank you, Stephanie. Good seeing you.